Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for our 2025 annual event, Pivoting for Our Future. My name is Charmin Gehring, and I'm your state president this year and for next year. I just want to welcome you. We have a really packed program with lots of information, some speeches, some awards, and we hope that it'll be a lot of fun for you. Just a reminder, this is being recorded and will be available on the website within a few days. So if you want to go back and watch it or share it with your branch members, that'll be available for you to do so. And just also to aid our flow of the meeting, everyone is going to be muted and videos off until our breakout rooms. And then you'll have access to starting your video and unmuting so that we can have discussion in the breakout rooms. But for the general meeting, we're going to keep everyone muted and off just to make things flow easier for our team behind the scenes. Next slide, please. We like to keep our mission statement front and center to remind us of our purpose, and that is that we're here for you, our members, and our branches in California. So this is our California leadership team statement. Next slide. So to welcome you to our event, I want to explain to you a little bit about why this book. Some of you have been hearing a little bit about this book, The Four Pivots by Dr. Sean Ginwright. This book actually was read by I have an equity book group, and we read it last year, and it was really monumental and relevant to all of us as a way of dealing with a lot of the issues and hard times and discussions that we're having in our country right now, in our world, and in AAUW. And many of you know that DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity are vital. Our thing I feel very passionately about as a way to help grow and sustain AAUW, as well as just a way to be living in the world. And so this book really addresses that. And we thought it was important. It also aligns with our board goals, which this year we're increasing accessibility, branch sustainability, and strengthening connections. And so the book discusses and hits on all of those in the four pivots. So I shared the book with the leadership team last summer at our retreat. We've been doing a little bit of work in it throughout the year. And now we're introducing it to the members. We're looking forward to next year in the fall, starting a statewide book group that you're welcome to join. And we'll have a Zoom call for each of the four pivots and kind of read through the book ourselves and see how it can relate to your own lives as well as to your branches in AAUW. But for today, we're aligning it to our goals. And also we have a speaker her name is Deepa Iyer, and she does a lot of work in social action and organizations and memberships. And so we're going to be learning from her as well and how this all ties together to help AAUW become a stronger organization moving forward in our branches. So we've aligned those topics. I'm going to turn over to Latha Murthy, who is going to discuss with you the four pivots.
Thank you, Charmin. So yes, as Charmin was saying, the four pivots is the main source of our theme today. But we also draw from two other sources for this theme, with the overall theme being making small shifts in perspective for the larger good and sustainability of an organization. And so all three of the sources that we draw our theme from today tie in to that larger idea of small changes with big results. And our second source is Deepa Iyer's book, Social Change Now. And the image in the middle there is from her book. That is her social change ecosystem map. And she's going to be talking about that today in her keynote speech. And we'll also be talking about it in breakout room 1 today. And really what it's about is learning what strengths each member of an organization brings to the organization, and also what they need from other members of an organization, because no one can do it all in an organization, although I know some of us try to. And it's really about the sustainability of an organization depending on everybody working together, both within their roles and supporting other roles. And I look forward to hearing more from Deepa about that today. And a third source that we draw from is Volunteers First, which we've really adapted for AAUW, and two of the breakout rooms today will also focus on that. And Volunteers First, like all of our sources today, really focus on relationship building and putting relationships over results. for the sustainability of an organization. So if it's anything that we like you to take away from today's meeting, it is that building relationships among the members of AAUW for our sustainability and putting relationships over results. And so now I'd like to go more into each pivot. Thank you. So our first pivot from Sean Ginwright's book, The Four Pivots, is from lens to mirror. And this really asks us to do the self-reflective, introspective work that I think we could all do more of in AAUW. Ginwright also calls it mirror work. And today in our meeting, and none of these pivots will be exemplified exactly as they are in the book during today's meeting, but we'd like to tell you how we are interpreting each pivot for today's meeting. And so with pivot one, we are taking time today in our annual meeting, as we do every year, to celebrate our successes and not just look at the future and what we hope to achieve, but what we're already doing and what we're doing well. And so that's where you'll see pivot one pop up in today's meeting. And ultimately, when we engage in self-reflection, the hard parts, as well as the fun and celebratory parts, we heal ourselves and our organizations for long-term sustainability. Next slide, please. Pivot two is really about that relationship building part, from transactional to transformative. How can we make more of our relationships in AAUW about the relationships themselves and about each other, not just a goal, right? Not just a transaction. And so you'll see pivot two pop up today when we are talking about members and groups within our organization that do what they do for the larger good and sustainability of our organization more than any specific results, especially for themselves. Next slide. Pivot three, you'll also see pop up today. Pivot three, I think we're really good at in AAUW, and you'll see why today. And it's from problem to possibility. And that's about coming up with creative, imaginative ways to address issues and problems, both within our organization and outside of our organization. Issues and problems that align with our mission. And we will be recognizing people and groups within our organization today and talking about how they have taken problems and issues and resourcefully used their imagination, their creativity to turn these problems and issues into possibilities, into opportunities, and how we can all follow suit. And the last pivot is pivot four, from hustle to flow. This one's a little more abstract, and you won't see it pop up quite as much in today's presentation, but this is about letting go a bit, letting things happen organically and not sticking so much to an agenda and the way things have always been done. And this is important because we're all human and we all make mistakes, and we'll never quite get things maybe perfectly or the way we planned. And so sometimes we have to sit back, take a break, and also go with the flow. And so today you'll see pivot four pop up in relation to that, knowing maybe when to step back from something and take a different direction and flow around obstacles for both the sustainability of ourselves as individuals and our organization. So those are the four pivots that we'll be drawing from in relation to our larger theme of pivoting for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Lotta. And I'm excited to kick us off with our opening speaker, Sherry Sorokin, to share a little information about you. She is our current board chair for AAUW, and she's an attorney who spent much of her career at Bank of America, where she was the executive vice president and corporate secretary. She's a published author on corporate governance and now consults on governance matters with the Viaco Group. Currently, she is president of Marin Villages, a nonprofit that helps older adults remain active, connected, and independent in their homes. At AAUW, she's held leadership positions at the branch and national level, including serving on the national board since 2017. I'm glad to welcome Sherry Sworkin.
So thanks so much, Charmin. You know, I really appreciate being invited to speak today. This is kind of my swan song day because I'm going off the board actually in May. But I've really enjoyed my tenure as board chair and my prior service on the board. And I encourage all of you guys to think about getting on a national committee and maybe thinking about at some point joining the national board. I know the Charmin and the California board have planned a really exciting day for you. It's kind of different approach to an annual gathering of members, and kudos to you for stepping up and looking at things a little differently. I think we all have to pivot, as your theme is. Let me start with the obvious in my welcoming remarks, and that is we are certainly surrounded by change in this world. Most of our values are being challenged. Hard-fought successes that we fought for in gender equity are being rolled back. But let me also be equally clear, you know, at AAUW, we believe that when civil rights are threatened and equity programs are dismantled, we're not going to step back. We show up. We remain really committed to our mission and to standing with those who are supporting the fight for fairness, inclusion, acceptance of diversity, and opportunity for all in every corner of this country, including right here in California. AAUW has been fighting for gender equity for 140 years, and we're not going to stop now. We're not going to watch things get rolled back. We're at a critical moment for equity in higher education, something that's really near and dear to the hearts of AAUW women, of course. And higher education is proven to be one of the most powerful tools for economic mobility, and it's right now under attack. Instead of being guided by academic values, it's being reshaped by political agendas. Just last week, the administration issued executive orders that strike at the heart of the civil rights enforcement and accountability in education. One of these executive orders eliminates the use of disparate impact as a tool used to uncover systemic discrimination. Another directs the Department of Education to, quote, streamline accreditation, echoing the calls from some to dismantle the standards that protect students and ensure quality education. These aren't just abstract policy shifts, right? They have real consequences. In March, the Department of Education laid off half of its staff in the Office of Civil Rights, and it closed its regional offices, many of its regional offices, including one in San Francisco. This means fewer investigations, slower responses, and weakened protections, just as reports of campus harassment are on the rise. You know, misogyny is not dead, right? And in fact, we're seeing more and more complaints about more open misogyny in society. But AAUW has never backed down from a challenge. So, you know, we don't take federal funding, so we can speak out when others stay silent. And we're doubling down on our defense of educational opportunity. At the heart of our work is a very simple truth. Higher education opens doors to economic independence, to career opportunity, and to lasting equity. And in this critical moment, we're reaffirming our commitment to these points. Now is the time for bold and truly focused leadership. And so we're stepping forward at the national level with renewed vision and a new strategic plan. And I want to just preview a little bit about the strategic plan. It officially will launch on May 13th. You'll get a notice about a town hall about that. This plan is centered on higher education as the key driver of equity, opportunity, and economic security for all. We're doubling down on our mission through grant making, fellowships, and importantly, advocacy. The plan is built around 3 strategic priorities: providing critical funding for women in higher education, advocating and acting to remove systemic barriers in education in general and in the workplace, And the third point is reinforcing national and branch alignment to maximize our impact as an organization. By aligning national and local efforts, we're ensuring a unified approach that helps strengthen our ability to drive meaningful change. Through bold and federal grassroots advocacy, investment in local scholarships, enforcement of civil rights laws like Title IX, and support for inclusive workspaces, AAUW is stepping up to defend every woman's right to an education that leads to financial independence and career success. Our collective power as AAUW women is more important than ever. I should say not just AAUW women, because we also have men in our membership ranks, and it's very important that we are inclusive of the men in our organization who want to help support equity for women. As an organization, we have the research, the reach, and the reputation to be a powerful force for change, but we can't do it alone. We need all of you, because when branches and national work together, our impact really multiplies. So with your continued support, we'll keep breaking those barriers for women in higher education. Whether you're engaged at the local level in community action, funding scholarships, advocating for policy change, your efforts are what fuel this movement. It's the time to act and align ourselves together and push forward. The fight for gender equity really demands this kind of focus now, and together we're going to be stronger. So now for a brief commercial, four points, a little commercial here. First, don't forget to vote in the national election. And I guess we overlap a little bit with the California election. You probably got an email today about voting in the California election. I've already voted. We're a membership organization at all levels, and we do need participation of our members in order to elect directors, to amend bylaws, to approve public policy priorities at the national level and at the state and local level. So don't forget to vote twice, once at the national level, once for California. If you're a branch president, remember, please fill out that branch survey that was sent earlier this month. It's simplified from last year, but the information that you provide is really critical to us understanding what's going on in our 600 branches across the country. It helps us get information about what you need in terms of resources, and it helps us tell a better story about our national impact. So your participation is really essential. Third, don't forget to renew your own membership and remind others in your branches to join again. Help us ensure that every woman, regardless of race or income or background, has the opportunity to pursue and complete higher education in an environment that's free of discrimination and harassment. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind you to donate to AAUW at the national level. You know, your dues and your donations are both critical in sustaining our work. Dues do not cover the full cost of running a membership organization or our work as an organization. And unfortunately, our membership only about 17% of our members donate annually to AAUW. Of course, another way to donate is through the Legacy Circle. I'm a proud member of that, and I know many of you in California are as well. So I'm going to close with where I began. We're living through a really difficult time, not just for AAUW, but for public education, for civil rights, and for equity in this country. The decisions that are made here in California, the type of self-reflection, the type of small changes that we each can individually make towards the greater good, all of these things will help shape the future for the women and children, girls who come after us. Yet even in challenging times, we know this thing is true. Progress has never come without people like us, members of AAUW, others around us. Our strength has always come from those willing to stand firm, to speak up, and to do the work, even when it's hard, maybe especially when it's hard. That's why our call to action isn't just symbolic. It's kind of a roadmap for you to think about, and maybe you can think about it today as you're thinking about pivoting. Our roadmap at the national level in AAUW is to ask everyone who's a member, first of all, join and bring in others. Second, learn. Third, share. Fourth, act. And five, donate. You're helping lead the fight for an equitable future when you do those things. The work ahead is really serious, but so is our resolve. And I'm really glad that I'm a member of AAUW California, because I know that we can do it here. We have the largest group of members in AAUW here in California. A lot depends on what we do for the future of AAUW. So I'm going to stop there, and I probably have used up all my time, but I'm happy to answer questions if there are questions, or Charmin, if you want me to focus on something else that I should have said.
No, you're fine. Thank you so much, Sherry, for being with us today. Oh, trying to get my video on. I know you're busy and you're off to another meeting in another state. So isn't Zoom amazing that we can we can be in
We can
different
do this.
states? Yeah. So thank you so much for your words. I appreciate it, Sherry.
Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Well, I was gonna say, after hearing that, I'm so even more proud to be a member of AAUW. I'm so glad that in this time of difficulty with companies and corporations that are backing down from diversity work and inclusion and helping people belong, I'm glad to know that AAUW is doubling down, and we're going to continue with moving forward on our goals. So I wanted to just share some committee highlights. I was hoping to have a cute video for you, but I am not technologically advanced enough to do that. And so I just have some slides. Each of our directors and committees have shared some of their highlights over the years. And so there's gonna be a lot of information on the slides, but remember, this is being recorded. It will be posted later in the week if you want to go back and review it. So starting with our AAUW fund. Whoop. Sorry. You can see that we have our donations, we have speaking engagements. We had a lot of fellows this year, and many of your branches invited them to come speak. Our nominations and elections team did a lot of outreach. We still have one position available. So be thinking, if you are a QuickBooks type, if you're an accounting type and you'd love to be our CFO, we'd love to talk to you. Next slide. Our branch development team is a large committee, and they've been very busy this year. They had a branch survey about scholarships. We have I think probably an unprecedented number of branch activity awards applications. They created this Volunteers First program we're going to be hearing more about in the breakout rooms, and reviewing branch tools. There's a very robust toolkit online if you're looking for information about membership retention and recruitment and leadership. And they've been helping Julika, our office manager, with the Ask Us First program, which is where you can email us first before contacting National. And a lot of times we can help find the answer for you at a faster rate. Next slide. Public policy is another committee that is a large committee that's also been very busy. These are only 3 of their very many highlights they had of the year. One of the most exciting, of course, is that a bill, AB 2843, that we authored and co-sponsored or sponsored was signed by the governor. We had 25 of our 29 bills make it to the governor's desk and get signed. So an 86.2% success rate, which is really phenomenal. We had a robust lobby days. Hopefully many of you attended. We had 84 people in Sacramento and 102 on Zoom, which I think is a record. We had meetings with almost all the offices, and we advanced bills to protect the transgender community especially, and hold social media platforms accountable for those algorithms or AI that bring hate speech to the doorstep of our vulnerable groups. And we have a new public policy internship that Missy Maseko has championed, and we had 3 talented interns who were able to come to Sacramento and who've been making some significant contributions to AAUW California and our public policy work. Communications, also very, very busy. They have a lot of our 2 publications, California Connection and the Board to Board newsletters that go out to our members. They've been having peer groups and teaching members how to do everything from the new websites to setting up and using Google Drive, Canva, and other topics. Lots of webinars they've been facilitating throughout the year, and supporting every other committee that we have, as well as branches with website, YouTube postings, email, social media, editing, content. And they also did a web page redesign for Tech Trek. Be sure to check that out. Our DEI committee has been working on doing some surveys looking at where we started in the fall, where we ended in the spring in terms of growing in our knowledge and use of diversity, equity, inclusion resources. We've had discussion of the strategic plan that we created last year and how we could center that in our branches, and then just working on really centering DEI work, especially Dr. Sean Ginwright's book, The Four Pivots, and throughout our work and as a theme of our annual event. And now we have Kathy Ford, our CFO.
Welcome to the annual meeting. This may not be the favorite part of the meeting, but it's really informative and tells you where we are financially and where we want to go. So basically, the financial setup for AAUW is very simple. It could even look like a household financial setup. We have membership dues for income. We have various expenses primarily focused on supporting the branches. And we have cash, we have investments, we have very few liabilities. So it's a very, very simple structure. We're very liquid in that 97.5% of our assets are cash and liquid investments, meaning these are bond and stock funds that have a ready market. We have 1 month's credit card balance and accrued liabilities for the current month in liabilities, and that's it. So you see just $9,000 of liabilities at the end of 3/31/25. So total assets equals $568,000. Total cash investments of that is $554,000. The operations checking account was $72,000 at the end of the quarter versus $100,000 at same period last year. The $28,000 decrease was planned and approved by the board to hold another in-person committee day in this current fiscal year. And we really don't have the revenues to cover all our basic expenses plus an in-person day. So we decided we're going to go ahead and use some of our reserve money. The investment reserve accounts total $482,000 at the end of the quarter, up $15,000 versus 3/31/2024. Of course, 3/31/25 is before April 2nd, when Trump administration announced its wonderful tariff plan. It kind of blew up the entire world. The balance on April 21 had dipped down to 459, down 5% in 3 weeks. Now, the market has recovered in part, and yesterday, on Friday, it was back up to 477. But with this administration, volatility is expected to continue. The investment reserve accounts are still well above the minimum required balances of $75,000 for operations and $20,000 for the state reserve. So we're well covered by that. Next slide. Now, this is the income statement. So the ins and outs, revenues and expenses. So for the 9 months ended March 31st, membership dues income is $141,000 year to date versus $146,000 last year. Again, down 4%. This has been a pretty steady pattern over the last several years. We only have 1 month of dues to be included in this year's revenue, and that is March. We'll know what it is next week when National deposited it into the California accounts. So it is unlikely that we'll hit the $150,000, but we'll know more next week. Year-to-date expenditures for the period were $125,800. So where are we spending the money? Public policy, which includes lobbyists, lobby day in April, which is not included in the $125,000. Various postage and supplies for public policy. So that was $45,000, and that's 36% of our total expenses. Public policy was very creative because they wanted more people to be able to attend. They wanted their interns to attend. So looking for opportunities with the limited funds they had, they did some fundraising, and we're very successful in that. Our office manager storage, phone and internet, office supplies, total $30,000. This is very valuable expenditures. Julica Barrett keeps the wheels turning smoothly. She's the person you can call 4 days a week and contact, and really is adding to us administratively and technically. Travel was primarily for committee day, and that was $27,000. That was last August, and it did come in under our budget of about $29,000 for it. Software and website, all this work that keeps us connected is only about $12,000 this year to date. CPA review, we do have a review by a CPA, not a full audit, which would be much more expensive. That has been paid for with $8,000, bank fees and tax and filing fees, about 7% of total. Amortization of software, that sounds like a very accounting term, and it is. A couple of years ago, we did a redo of the branch officer report, and that is being spread out over 5 years. So that's the life of that development. And then some other miscellaneous, less than $1,000. Next slide. Okay, so what does this mean? We should achieve our operating budget of negative $29,000 by the end of the fiscal year, and may even be somewhat better depending on how the fourth quarter goes and the revenue numbers that we see for March. The minimum required for the operations checking account is $50,000, and we're still above that, but it may be necessary to transfer some funds from the operations reserve account into the checking account, because we renew all of our insurance policies at the end of June. They're effective with the fiscal year. And these policies are extremely important. Last year, they ran in total for all the policies over $50,000. And we don't yet have quotes. We will have quotes coming up in the next month when the renewal process begins. And we pay for those policies up front to make sure that the policies are in place with continuous coverage to protect all our branches and Tech Trek. We bill out the cost afterwards. So we just have a little bit of a cash flow issue here. But depending on the revenues that come in May and June may also help support us that. It may not be recognized in this current year, but it's still cash in the bank. Membership revenues have continued to decline while the costs are increasing. You've all seen in your own lives inflation having an impact, and if all these tariffs go through, they will have a greater impact. The AAUW California website will need to be upgraded of a cost approximately $20,000 in the next year or two. But maintaining branch support, the technology is so important. It allows us to reach out like we are doing today. It allows us to communicate with the branches and for them to communicate with us. And so very much of the mission is at the branch level, so we need to keep those connections working. The cost of travel and other operating expenses will continue to increase. I haven't received the CPA review fee yet, but that has been stable for the last couple of years, so it may be an item that would also go up along with our tech costs. So our plans for this next fiscal year, committee day will be virtual, and that will help defray certain costs and allow us to redeploy that money to other of the issues that we're facing. We also have a dues increase up for vote for the membership to allow us to continue to do all this critical work that AAUW California is doing. If you have any questions about the material presented, you can always reach me at cfo@aauw-ca.org. And I'm definitely, if you have any questions about the CFO position, accounting-wise, it is not complicated. You do use QuickBooks Online to do it, but I am very, very willing to help support anybody who is interested in the position all the way through to get on board and understand what's required and how to do it. So give me a call, contact me. I think that's it.
Deanna?
I'm right here. Okay, so here we are, and it's nice to see so many, or not see so many faces, but lots of lovely names. For our highest per capita branches, we have Greater Whittier, which is an amazing number, $966.73 per member. Marin County at 238.72. Hayward Castro Valley at 208.02. La Palma Cerritos at 176.56. Placentia Yorba Linda at 142.86. 7 is Cabrillo Diego at 113.73. Camarillo at number 8 at 103.23. Sacramento at 101.28. And Morgan Hill at 90.77. These are amazing numbers. I thank you, each and every one of you, for your contributions to the AAUW Fund. National thanks you for your contributions to the greatest needs. Everything we do is so important, and we can't do it all without you. So thank you again. If you have questions, you can always contact me, and I will be happy to help you if I can, or find out if I don't. Okay, the top branches are Greater Whittier at $103,440. Number 2 is Marin Incorporated at $38,674. Sacramento is $19,041. Morgan Hill is $18,518. La Mesa El Cajon is $17,668. 6 is San Jose at $15,977. California Online, $14,448. Camarillo at $14,246. Danville, Alamo, Walnut Creek at $10,674. And Half Moon Bay at $10,533. And as you can tell, Greater Whittier received a Legacy Circle number of $100,000, which makes them look like the heroes of the day. So encourage your members to join Legacy Circle. This will not be the only push for Legacy Circle today, but it's just a way to give back and make sure we can keep giving. Thank you all for your support, and we'll move right on with the meeting.
Thank you. It is my honor to introduce today's keynote speaker who pre-recorded her speech for us, her presentation. I taught Deepa Iyer's Social Change Now in my class called Social Change during the winter quarter, and I kept reading it and thinking, wow, I think AAUW members could really benefit from Deepa Iyer's work and learning from her and what she has to share. And so I feel that we are very fortunate that she agreed to be our keynote speaker today. You can read her bio online, but I will read it as well. Because she's quite distinguished, and I think it's good to know all of the different roles that she plays in her life. Deepa Iyer is a leader of the nonprofit Building Movement Project and the author of the book I mentioned and that you see there, Social Change Now, A Guide for Reflection and Connection. She's a lawyer, a writer, and a strategist, and she focuses on the sustainability of social change movements and organizations with the understanding that exhaustion and burnout are all too common. Her work asks us to reflect on both the strengths we bring to our organizations as well as the support we need from others, emphasizing that social change requires both connection and collaboration. And so now I present Deepa Iyer.
Michelle, we need audio.
So that I can also provide some visuals for our conversation. So I want to start by talking a little bit about the importance of engaging in social change and how we as individuals and organizations and networks are really in a moment right now when participation and engagement in social change is so vital and so important. And before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my points of entry into this conversation. I am an immigrant who was born and raised in the state of Kerala, India, and I moved to the United States, to the state of Kentucky, when I was 12 years old in the 1980s. As you can likely imagine, my family and I immediately felt very much like the other. And it was the quest for belonging and justice that really shaped my own life and the work that I have done. I went on to go to law school and start to work in different social movements and nonprofit organizations that were really focused on equity and justice, particularly on behalf of immigrant communities, Asian American, South Asian, Muslim, Arab communities. The backlash that happened after September 11th, 2001 was a real catalyst in my work. And it was a call to action for me and so many others at the time who wanted to return to and support our own communities in weathering those years. And my work has allowed me to learn so much from community organizers of all backgrounds on all issues, and to document their work and the needs of community members in writing that I have also done. So that is how I entered this space and this conversation in terms of what I have learned from others and what I hope I can impart to you as well. I'm really fortunate that I have brought a lot of that work and a lot of those lessons to my current home at the Building Movement Project, where I run a program on solidarity practice. And our team works to build informational materials on solidarity, to uplift solidarity narratives and frameworks through podcasts and social media, and to weave together a lot of conversations between organizations and leaders on how we build our collective solidarity analysis and our relationships. You can learn more about our work at solidarityis.org. So I want to start by really acknowledging the moment that we're in. The world is demanding a lot of us right now, and it is doing that in multiple ways. And let's also remember that we do exist to meet this moment as individuals and as collectives. Around the world and here in the United States, we are seeing and have seen a relentless attack on the rights and bodies and livelihoods of people, especially those who are most vulnerable. We're seeing the genocide in Palestine. We are seeing the ways in which trans people and immigrants are being attacked in our country. And in addition to these types of crises that we're seeing around the world and in our country, Many of us are also dealing with what we call at Solidarity is and Building Movement Project, a pressure cooker environment, where our organizations are facing a lack of resources. We're in a constant cycle of crisis. We are dealing with a lot of the culture and practice of productivity and constantly performing and constantly doing the hustle. We're also dealing with a lot of either direct or vicarious trauma that we're bringing into our spaces that are unhealed. And we may be dealing with conflict in terms of our ideas or in terms of our relationships. All of this means that we're sitting in a pressure cooker, and on top of these different ways in which we are dealing with a very hot stove with the burners turned all the way up, we are also in the United States dealing with attacks on civil society, on our identities, on our very existence in many ways. So all of that can take a toll on us. It can make us feel like we're playing a game of whack-a-mole. We're dealing with one crisis when another one emerges immediately. And we may be reacting to that in terms of trauma responses, whether it is freezing, whether it is fleeing, whether it's fighting, or whether it's even complying and fawning. And others of us at times may feel as though we are a wilting plant. We are trying to really build our sustainability and our energy to deal with the different crises in our communities. And even in those moments of crisis, of hardship, of adversity, we can find opportunities. And those opportunities can really be coming at us and from us in different ways. There's the opportunity to raise our hands and say, I'm here, I'm present, I'm ready and willing to support my ecosystem, to take a stand, to use my voice. Others of us might be thinking about different visions that can bloom at this point so that we're doing the work that we know is important in ways that are different from the ways in which we have done it before. Maybe we're building new partnerships. Maybe we are really getting clear about the core values that are undergirding our collective impact. So just as the flowers are blooming right in the midst of snow, what are the opportunities? What are the gifts that we can find right now as individuals and as organizations? So in this context, and with those questions in mind, I want to offer a resource to you that I hope will be useful as you continue your own self-awareness, your thought process, and the work that you're doing. And this is called the Social Change Ecosystem Framework, which I developed in 2017. And it is intended to give individuals, organizations, and networks a way to think about how we can show up more effectively and more sustainably to support the communities and the work that we are so drawn to. I want to start by providing a little bit of a grounding in what we even mean when we say social change. So often when we talk about social change, we're really talking about the ability to address and eliminate the root causes of what creates inequity and oppression in our society. Angela Davis has said, if indeed we wish to be radical in our quest for change, then we must get to the root of our oppression. After all, radical simply means grasping things at the root. So how are we revealing and exposing what is at the root of the inequity and injustices that we see? That's one way we can bring about social change. But we can't stop there. We also need to offer and build a different set of systems, policies, institutions that can lead to equitable and just solutions. And in order to do that, we need sustainable and effective resources, partnerships, and infrastructure. And this framework that I'm introducing to you can help move us in that direction. And it's really embedded in, I would say, 4 different ways of thinking about ourselves. And these are embodied in the quotes that you see on the screen from women of color. So Nikki Giovanni has taught us that if you don't understand yourself, you don't understand anyone else. And that is why self-awareness, not to the point of navel gazing, but for the purpose of understanding our skills, our strengths, and our limitations and boundaries, is a real core part of the social change ecosystem framework. Both Grace Lee Boggs and Bell Hooks have talked about how we move from that self-awareness to understanding how we connect with each other. And Grace Lee Boggs has said, in this exquisitely connected world, it is never a question of critical mass. It is always about critical connections. Whereas Bell Hooks has reminded us that the way that we sustain ourselves is by building communities of resistance, places where we know we're not alone. And finally, Yashna Padmasi is reminding us that we need to think about our conversations around self-care as community care also, from independent to interdependent. And in so many ways, this encompasses the back and forth feedback loop of the I to the we to the us that many of us attempt to embody, we strive to embody when we do social change work. So you'll see that come up a lot in this particular framework too. So a few quick points about this framework. First, it's really focused on 3 components. The first component is, what are our core values as individuals or institutions? And those are what we want to put in the middle of the map that you see on the right. The second question that we want to think about is, how do we show up and how do we want to show up that really advance those core values? And those are the 10 roles, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And the third aspect of this framework is that it is premised on the idea of an ecosystem, where we understand that it is our relationships and connections with each other that are vital to advancing social change. This framework is multidimensional, which means you can use it as an individual, you can use it as an organization, a team, a task force, or you can use it even as a big network, association, university, or coalition. To think about what are the roles that different member groups play, or staff and volunteers play, to understand what are our gaps, what are our assets, and where do we want to actually more robustly support each other. The framework also invites us to think beyond titles. The roles here are not aligned with titles, but they're aligned with our skills and our strengths. And in this framework, we also have the ability to think about context. So our roles might shift depending on what is happening around us, what is happening in our institutions, and even what is happening to us. So that's where sustainability and well-being comes in. We might recognize that playing a certain role takes a real toll on us, and that we're not actually helpful to the ecosystem as a whole. So instead of leaving the ecosystem altogether, how can we recognize the boundaries that we have and play another role that's still in service to this broader ecosystem? I want to talk a little bit with you about the roles, and as I do that, I invite you to think about the ways in which you show up, the ways in which you aspire to show up in order to tend to social change. So weavers are those of us who see the through lines of connection. We're able to understand how different issues are connected to each other and that we're not siloed. Experimenters are those of us who find different ways to do things better. We're not always focused on how we've done things for the last 15 years, but we want to pioneer and invent. We're ready to take some risks and course correct as needed. Frontline responders are those of us who are on the ground when there is a crisis in our community. We know whom to call, we know how to calm people down in times of chaos, and we know how to consolidate resources. Visionaries are those of us who see the North Star. We know where we need to go, and we're able to inspire others to head in that direction. But as with all the different roles on this map, visionaries can't work alone. None of the roles can, and visionaries work best if they are surrounded by builders. Builders are those of us who create the scaffolding between the North Star and our current reality. We put together programs, we put together different resources in service of the collective vision. Caregivers and healers are both concerned with communities of care, but they approach them differently. Caregivers are really focused on the people that they see right in front of them. That could be the students in my class, the coworkers in my organization, the clients who come to my nonprofit. How do I make sure that they feel connected, that they feel that they're cared for? Whereas healers are looking at how trauma winds itself through institutions and policies, and they're finding different modalities such as somatic healing or restorative justice to tend to those traumas. Disruptors get into good and necessary trouble, like Representative John Lewis asked us to. They often take risky actions that can shake up the status quo, and they speak truth to power. Storytellers are those of us who are sharing our community stories and histories and possibilities using lots of different types of mediums. And we're doing this during a time where our stories are often rendered invisible or even banned. And guides. Guides are those of us who played another role on the map, and we understand how to do it because we have this well-earned discernment and wisdom, and we're able to pass it on to others. So when we think about the ways in which our roles and our values come together, there are a couple of questions that might be useful. What are our core values? What are our goals in terms of social change is the first step. The second step is to think about what the roles are that I'm often called upon to play or aspire to play, and how do these advance the values of the ecosystem as a whole. And the last step is to think about who else is part of my ecosystem, and how can we play our roles together in order to achieve our common goals. There's more on my website, socialchangemap.com, if you're interested in digging into this further. During this time, I know that a lot of us are thinking about how we tend to the fierce urgency of now, a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, who has said, "We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now." And I often feel that it can be really difficult to tend to that fierce urgency of now, unless we're working together and unless we're working locally. So I paired this quote by Dr. King with another one by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who is the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves. And she has said, "Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach." So I hope that you'll think about, what is the part of the world that is within your reach? Is it a community, a neighborhood, an organization, a network, an association, your friends, a campus group? And what role can you play in coordination with others to mend that part? Maybe it's to be a disruptor and speak up. Maybe it is to be a weaver and find things in common with others. All of these different ways in which we act together will advance social change and will confront the fierce urgency of now. If you'd like to learn more about what I've presented, I want to invite you to take a look at www.socialchangemap.com, where you'll find more information about the social change ecosystem framework and how you can include it, adapt it, and use it. And I also want to invite you to check out 2 books that I've written on this framework. One is called Social Change Now, and it's a workbook that you can write in. And the other is a book for children, which is also for adults, called We Are the Builders. Thank you again for having me. I hope that your meeting goes really well. I hope that you're able to find community with each other and find different ways in which you can flex your roles, both as individuals and as a collective, in order to meet the moment today as well as for the decades to come. Take good care.
Hi everyone. Of course, I follow the keynote, and I could never do justice to that kind of talk, but I will give you an update on on what we are doing in public policy. So public policy work for AAUW California, of course, focuses on equity and social justice. So connecting back to our theme, we advance diversity, equity, inclusion, operating in the spirit of Pivot 3, clearly articulating what we are for, in addition to kind of forcefully opposing what we are against, especially this year. So given the state of the country, the many legislative, political, and social attacks on issues that we care about at AAUW California, public policy has been increasingly dedicated to providing you with all of the direct and concrete action items. So depending on where you fit, either in the pivots or in the wonderful model that Deepa provided, if you are someone that is action oriented, then please do check out the action items that we have started to cultivate for you with the help of our amazing interns. We've been able to launch a Take Action resource that's now, as you see on the slide, linked on the main landing page for AAUW California Public Policy. That provides a clearinghouse of action resources. We've also put out additional ResistBot petitions, and we've started and maintained a Blue Sky account for increased outreach. So if you're on that social media platform, then please find us and follow us there. The internship program is wonderful. It is helping to mentor in the next generation of gender equity advocates and build a new generation of AAUW California members. And we are very thankful for that program and the interns themselves, who are fantastic. And in addition, we've maintained our regularly scheduled programming, such as setting the legislative agenda, maintaining our coalition partnerships, and co-sponsoring important legislation, which our wonderful legislative advocate, Kathy Van Osten, will tell you more about in a little video address now.
Hi, I'm Kathy Van Osten in the Strategy Group, and I am happy to be here as your representative to give you a quick update on legislation that AAUW is working to advance this year, or working to stop for the first time in at least recent memory. So I'm happy to give you an update on the legislation that you have chosen to prioritize and to work on to advance, hopefully to the governor's desk. We have about 30 bills that you have taken positions on. This is the first year that I can remember that we've taken an opposed position on some bills that are pretty egregious, that I am happy to report. We've been able to either aggressively and assertively advocate on to try to keep those bills from advancing. Of our 30 bills that we've been working on, those that we have opposed, we have about 6 bills that have either not been set for hearing, not been set for referral to a committee, or have failed in committee. And one of those are our priority bills that I'll talk about in just a moment. But we do have 20 bills that we are supporting, either sponsoring or highly prioritizing or otherwise supporting, that are moving forward. And I'm happy to report that they are active. We have another 4 bills that we are supporting that have become 2-year bills. That happens when an author perhaps needs to gather more information, needs to gather more support, has some questions to answer, a little bit more homework to do on a bill, and they can take that up again. Those bills can be taken up in January of next year. So they are certainly not dead, but very much active. So at this snapshot, we have about 24 bills that remain active for us. priority bills, we have SB 771, which we are a co-sponsor of. Senator Henry Stern from Ventura County is carrying that bill. And it is a bill that essentially calls back the tech social platforms to try to bring them back to what they were doing before, which is to monitor content in terms of any aggressive, inappropriate, and frankly, potentially threatening types of behaviors or messaging. And it is a bill, SB 771 will be taken up in the Senate Judiciary Committee this coming Tuesday. AAUW, would be me, will be providing lead testimony on that bill. And we're hopeful to get that, to move that forward to advance. And essentially what that bill does is it says to those social platforms that they are not sacrosanct, that they do have responsibility and culpability. A platform in particular, AI, and we would argue algorithms, don't necessarily enjoy the benefits of the First Amendment protections. In other words, they are culpable and accountable for furthering and targeting speech that is threatening or incites potential violence or harm to a person or a community. So that bill will be taken up. We do believe firmly that social media platforms have made a purposeful decision to step away from monitoring this type of behavior for political reasons, and we don't really care about the reason why they're doing it. The bottom line is that there are communities and lives at stake that are the targets of hateful and insightful content. And so we would like to provide some accountability on that. SB 418 is a bill that is carried by Senator Carolyn Menjivar out of the San Fernando Valley. And this bill simply prohibits a health plan and insurer from not enrolling or not providing benefits to a person based on their ethnicity, based on their culture, their sex, their sexual identifiers, which would include anybody from transgender community, somebody who is of intersex. Really takes that factor in terms of what type of benefits they're going to provide, what type of a person they are going to enroll in their system. And it says you cannot discriminate based on any of these factors that would be a sex identifier. So this bill has moved through one committee. Actually, it's moved through two committees. It passed the Senate Judiciary Committee this week, and it now goes to the Appropriations Committee. And I'm confident that bill will move in advance fairly far along the process, and I would expect that to get to the governor's office. Our third priority bill, AB 1098, is a higher education bill. And what this measure does is it takes the protections that are afforded to graduate students in public universities and extends those to undergraduates. And these are women who are pregnant or people who are taking leave to adopt or to bond with a child. And it extends protections for them so that they can return to their academic studies without penalty, that they can continue to operate within their programs. Essentially builds those protections. Clearly, this impacts mostly women. We do not want to see women or anybody leaving university in order to try to support themselves or because they cannot get back to the status and in their academic program that they were at when they became pregnant or had a pregnancy-related issue. So AB 1098 is a bill. It is advancing. The author has accepted amendments from AAUW to further strengthen protections afforded to graduate students, and we're thrilled about that. We are strongly supporting this bill, and it will next be heard in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. So our priority bills are advancing. We had another priority bill AB 579 that would have protected parents who could be accused of neglect for not recognizing or not providing mental health or other healthcare services, gender affirming healthcare services for their children. We know that studies are showing that those children that do not have familial support and receive specific types of care, that they tend to have very, very poor outcomes, including suicidal ideation, suicide, mental health, significant mental health problems. And so we opposed that bill vigorously. This was included in our messaging for our lobby day. And I'm pleased to report that bill was never even referred to a committee. So we are happy to say that bill is dead. Unless it is significantly amended, I don't see that it will be advanced at all. So far, so good. We're very early in the process this year, and I anticipate a very successful year for AAUW, and appreciate your goodwill and your good work in advancing social policies, social and public policies that benefit not only women, but really all of society. So thank you for letting me represent you. We appreciate it, and I hope you have a fabulous annual meeting, and look forward to giving you further reports.
So as Kathy mentioned, this year for the first time, AAUW California took a strong opposition position on a bill, AB 579, a bill that was so potentially problematic that it did not make it to committee. AAUW California's positions on two of our priority bills, then AB 579 and SB 418, and the development and release of something else we're working on, which is a trans allyship guide, are very focused on protecting the rights of the transgender community. So prioritizing protection for the rights of transgender people is a necessary part of advocating for social justice and the rights of all women and girls in this political moment. So I just want to say a little bit more about why we're taking these positions. First, the attack on the transgender community targets a community that makes up a very small portion of the US population, with an estimate being around from 0.6 to 1.6%. And many of the kind of legislative, popular, and political attacks are not just targeting the transgender community generally, but specifically targeting transgender women and girls. And that's really not surprising, because the regulation of transgender bodies is frequently focused on trans women and regulating femininity, not broadly on trans men, such as what we see happening in sports. But AAUW's mission is to advance gender equity for all girls and women, as girls and women are historically marginalized on the basis of gender, but feminized and gender-based forms of marginalization are, of course, intersectional, which has been mentioned a few times today, and that means that for some, marginalization occurs in many ways at the same time. So for trans women and girls, they must deal with, at the very least, the same kinds of misogyny, which has already been raised today, right? The same kinds of misogyny that many of us face on a daily basis, and at the same time, deal with the kinds of hatred and erasure that comes along with being trans in the United States right now. Now, because of intersecting and compounding forms of marginalization, we do not all need the same things to be liberated or to have our rights be and needs be met. So there are specific members of our community who need different kinds of support, and at times extra support. And right now that is the trans community and trans women and girls who are facing a great deal of animus socially and legally. So when AAUW says we support the rights of all girls and women, that means that we always support transgender girls and women, and that we offer them extra support right now at a time when their need is among the greatest. And at the same time, supporting trans rights is supporting many of the rights that this organization has fought to attain, because it's inseparable from broader attempts to restrict all women and girls based on gender stereotyping. regulating our ability to access certain spaces in the past, historically, regulating women's rights to get a business loan without a man's signature, regulating our likelihood to be promoted based on assumptions about emotions or abilities or judgments or whether or not we're feminine enough or too feminine is intricately linked with the same kinds of attacks that are happening against trans rights and trans people right now. So we thank you for all your continued commitment to making the world a better place for everyone. And I hope that that if you have any questions about our legislative agenda and where we're putting some of our energy right now, please feel free to reach out. Thank you, everyone. And I will now turn it over to Charmin to talk about Legacy Circle.
Thank you, Missy. Time for some recognition. The Legacy Circle, AAUW Legacy Circle, is a wonderful way to support AAUW even after you're gone. And you can see we assign this a pivot 2. If anyone's keeping track of that, we're noticing that on the linking on the slides. There are many ways to recognize AAUW in your state as a beneficiary to policy. You can leave a specific amount or percentage, and there's other ways as well. It's a right now a pretty exclusive club, but we want it to be less exclusive. So we'd like to invite everybody to join us. A link has just been dropped in the chat to the AAUW website where you can find more information about the Legacy Circle. As a member, you'll enjoy private recognition, birthday cards, different cards throughout the year from the liaisons across the nation, special invitations to AAUW gatherings, which used to be in person, of course, at convention, but now are virtual. And if you have any information, you can either join online at that link, or you can contact Judy Horan in Southern California or myself. We're both Legacy Circle liaisons for California. And I also like to point out that we have about 712 nationwide members in this Legacy Circle, but in California, we have 141. So as Sherry showed us earlier, we are the largest group of members in the country of over 8,000 members. I think the next largest state has about 3,000 members total, but we have obviously a large portion of these Legacy members and growing, and we'd love to welcome you. So we'd like to share now and recognize those members in California who are part of the Legacy Circle. I always like to say, if you've been a member of AAUW for 30 or more years, this is an organization you care deeply about, and you can show your family how much you love AAUW and care about us by becoming a member and ensuring that our organization is strong for many years to come. So thank you to all of you.
Hi, thanks, Charmin. Good morning, everyone. I'm Becky Gomez, Co-Director of Branch Development, and I want to talk a little bit about the 5-Star program, which is designed to help branches align with AAUW's strategic priorities in advance of our mission. By participating, your branch builds a strong network of advocates on a local and national level. Each star represents a different area as noted on the slide. In each category, there are several options to achieve a star, but you don't have to achieve each item, but usually only 3. For example, in the advancement star, you only need to achieve 3 of the 5 options. So 1, raise $30 per member in fiscal year 25 towards a greatest needs fund. Well, this might be difficult for those on a fixed income. You can probably, number 2, increase contributions to the greatest needs fund by 15% from the last fiscal year. Third, you can retain the branch membership by at least 80%. And when I've looked at the membership numbers, most branches have held their membership, with a few having only a slight decrease or an increase. 4, make a branch contribution or support a registrant's attendance at Nick Whistle. Or 5, recruit at least 1 Legacy Circle member, which we just heard about, from your branch in fiscal year 2025. For the public policy star, only 3 of the 6 need to be achieved. 1, you can appoint a branch public policy chair for fiscal year 25, which most of you have probably done as good practice. 2, conduct a meeting with an elected official regarding an AAUW public policy position. This could include a state, local, or federal official. Most officials would love to get in front of your group, so it's an easy ask. Participate in State Lobby Day. This is a good option since your members can participate in person or via Zoom. Plus, it's a lot of fun. The old, I'm going to write my legislator. Well, here's your chance to champion a policy. 4, you could hold a program on public policy topic related to education, economic security, or civil rights. This also counts towards a program star. This is what we call in academics a double dip. You know, you take one class, but it counts for 2 requirements. You could conduct a voter registration or voter education event. Or you could encourage signups for the 2-minute activist action network at branch events or on social media, which again, you're probably already doing. On the national website, you can find information by going to the membership tab or search 5-star program. The annual branch survey is now available for branch leaders to review. You can download the questions and the checklist to assist you. Please review these questions with your board and have a designated leader complete the survey. Only one survey response should be submitted for each branch. The survey is now open through June 30th of 25. Now, can we go to the next slide, please? Now, here are the 5-star branches, and of the 15 star branches in the country, 7 are California branches, which obviously represents almost half. So if you achieve the 5 stars, you get a 5-star banner for your website. You get to have the 5-star success story featured in Membership Matters, a 5-star leadership briefing, email recognition from AAUW National, and a branch listing on the national website. Next slide, please. Here we can see the branches that have achieved both the 4-star and 3-star status. So please join me in congratulating these branches for achieving this status. In addition, 20 branches had 2 stars and 23 branches had 1 star. A total of 69 branches participated. Remember, it's just like the lottery. You have to enter in order to achieve the status. And now in the chat, you can also capture the link to go straight to that 5-star status link and on the national website. Thank you very much.
Good morning and welcome to our final state speech track contest, where the first place will be $2,500, second place $2,000, third place $1,500, and honorable mentions, there are 2 for $500 each. The number of branches participating this year were 12, and number of students engaged was 58. At this time, I would like to thank those who made Speech Trek possible over the past 18 years. Our judges this year were Susie Basanda, Nancy Meyer, Quentin Panic, Paul Sneft, and Marla Semenik. The coordinators throughout the 18 years were Donna Erickson, and she was the creator and founder of Speech Trek. Dee Quattraro, Marlene Kane, Lana Widman, and myself, Kathy Foxhoven. The treasurers were Elizabeth Jordan, who did it for so many years, and Judy Steele, who also has been invaluable. There has been one mentor throughout the years, Gloria Ng from Southern California, and she has continued to mentor students throughout Southern California for 5-6 years. Finally, let us thank our benefactors, Jim and Kathleen Doty. When the second year we needed funding and we had to go to the branches, Jim and Kathleen stepped up in a big way. Then Eleanor Stem Allen, her husband Gray, when she passed away, established the Eleanor Stem Allen Memorial. And he contributed for many, many years. And our final contributor was Patrick Foxhoven, who knew the value of speaking, of learning to speak in front of people. Thank you all. We couldn't have done it without you. And now let's hear the 3 top winners who made it to the top. And with the topic, climate change is happening. The effects are widespread and touch upon almost all aspects of our life on this planet. Select one area of impact and explore the effective climate change is having on women in the USA and around the world. Listen to these intelligent, passionate speakers talk about climate change.
Imagine this. A pregnant woman in California struggles to breathe as wildfire smoke thickens the sky, her very lungs fighting against the very air that should sustain her. Or across the world in Bangladesh, another woman treks miles under a punishing sun, searching for one drop of clean water. Now, these women may be separated by continents, but they share one same battle. Climate change is an invisible hand tightening its grip around their health and well-being. And as a member of Foster City's Citizen Sustainability Advisory Committee, I have seen firsthand the power of community action in the fight for sustainability. And today I stand before you not just as an advocate, but as a firm believer of change, urging us to recognize an often overlooked consequence of climate change: its devastating impact on women's health, both in the United States and across the world. Now let's start with one of the most vulnerable groups, mothers. Climate change isn't just a far-off concern. It's impacting the very foundation of life. Studies have shown that extreme high exposure in heat increases the risk of preterm birth, stillbirth, and low birth weight, especially for pregnant women. A 2020 study in JAMA Network Open found that women exposed to prolonged high temperatures were 50% more likely to give birth prematurely. The impact doesn't just end there. The most vulnerable, Black and Indigenous women, already struggling with environmental stressors, environmental healthcare disparities, face even more severe consequences from these environmental stressors. Beyond just heat, climate change is expanding diseases like the Zika virus, which causes birth defects, making it clear that these shifts are robbing women of their futures before they even begin. Now, while pregnancy and reproductive health are gravely affected, the crisis extends far beyond the womb. Women, who make up 70% of the global healthcare workforce, are also on the front lines when it comes to dealing with the aftermath of climate-driven diseases and disasters. Disease outbreaks like heat stroke, respiratory illnesses, and pandemics strike them the hardest. Droughts and floods contaminate water sources, leading to deadly infections like cholera, which disproportionately affects women and girls in developing countries. In the United States, air pollution, exacerbated by climate change, has led to higher rates of asthma and cardiovascular disease among women, particularly in low-income communities. Imagine being a mother who must choose between opening a window to let in fresh air or keeping it shut to protect her child from polluted toxins. And access to healthcare is already limited for so many women, and climate change is turning that scarcity into a crisis. And lastly, it's not just the physical toll of climate change that's wreaking havoc. No, it's also the mental strain that comes with it, especially for women who are disproportionately affected by climate disasters. Beyond the body, climate change is a waging war of the mind. Natural disasters, whether it be hurricanes or wildfires or even floods, don't just take homes. They take security, they take dignity, and they take peace. Women are disproportionately displaced, left vulnerable to stress, PTSD, and gender-based violence. See, after Hurricane Katrina, 83% of single mothers are 83% of single mothers in affected areas reported severe health and financial challenges, showing how disasters don't just destroy landscapes, they deepen inequalities. In Australia, domestic violence reports surged by 25% after the 2019 wildfires, proving that destruction doesn't always come in the form of flames or floods. It can manifest behind closed doors. So what can we do? First, we must demand gender-responsive climate policies that address women's unique health risks. And this means investing in healthcare infrastructure, improving disaster response for women, and ensuring access to clean air and water. Second, we must amplify women's voices in climate leadership. When women are at the decision-making table, climate policies are not just stronger, they're more compassionate, more just, and more effective. And finally, we must recognize that climate change is more than just an environmental issue. It's a human rights issue, and its impact on women's health is a crisis we can no longer ignore. Climate change is not just a distant storm on the horizon. It is here, it is now, and it's demanding action. The question is, will we answer the call before it's too late? Because the future of women's health and the future of our planet depends on it. Thank you. Do you know what it's like to build a puzzle with half the pieces missing? I mean, I don't, because I can barely build a puzzle anyway. But that's exactly what it looks like when women aren't represented in policy. It's like trying to build a picture of society, and it doesn't look quite right. Policy is the avenue to create widespread change. It is a set of rules or regulations created by governments or organizations to create change in sectors like the environment and the economy. But right now, a majority of the population remain underrepresented in policymaking bodies, women. In my speech, I'll be talking about how climate change disproportionately impacts women, but moreover, how it continues to impact them. Climate change highlights flaws in gender equality. According to the UN, by 2050, 1.2 billion people will be displaced due to climate risks. 80% of these people, women. During displacement, women face increased barriers, like the obligation to caregiving, limited rights to land, and limited access to finances. After displacement, women face increased risks of human trafficking, unemployment, and gender-based violence. But women have a rich history as environmental advocates. But right now, they are not included in the decision-making process. Less than 30% of climate negotiating roles are held by women, but their male counterparts hold over 60%. Now, how do we expect solutions from people who are affected most, but they're not even in the room? What we need to do is give women opportunities to advocate for themselves and advocate for the specific circumstances that they are impacted by. Without representation, there's no way that solutions get made. Right now, there's so few women in policy that we expect them to share the same positions, when in reality, women come from varied expertise, varied ideas, and varied perspectives. My goal is to have enough women in policy to argue with one another, because how do you get change? you argue over it. The most important thing is to have enough women to share perspectives and to collectively come to change. I want to share the story of Bai Big Kong, the only woman chieftain of the Thailand god Manobo tribe in the Philippines. Her home is being desecrated by the logging industry. And what it's done is increase gender-based violence to the women in her tribe. Now, this is an experience that only the women in her tribe face, because a lot of the men have already been shipped off to work somewhere else. However, right now, she doesn't have a platform to speak. Despite deforestation being one of the most major climate concerns, without a platform, she can't advocate for her people. Leadership positions allow for women to create climate policies that not only address their struggles, but impact the climate movement as a whole. But does shifting the focus from climate change to diversity do more harm than good? And my answer is no. If anything, it creates more change because everything is connected. Look at a study done by the NIH in 2023. It showed how in the US, Black and Indigenous women were at increased risk for preterm birth and pregnancy complications due to air pollution, extreme heat, and inadequate health care. So climate change is connected to systemic inequality, which is connected to the lack of health care. Everything is connected. So if everything isn't connected, we need to be getting these people into policy so they can act on their experience. Lived experience. The idea that a woman knows how the inability to create change affects their health, their body, and their life. It's essential to creating all-encompassing and long-lasting solutions that address change. Policy impacts everyday life. It impacts all of us. And just like a puzzle, where if a couple pieces are missing, you don't get the complete picture, it's just like how when we create policy without diverse perspectives, big part of the image remains in policy and increasing representation of women in policy has rippling effects. It allows women and young people in general to be confident in themselves and what they believe in. It allows young people to chase after the positions of power to which they are entitled. With women in policy, we can create all-encompassing, long-lasting solutions because women created space for themselves and their beliefs. But with the support of more, we can create that much more change. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aditya Kumar. Scene one, take one. Lights, camera, action. In the 1970s, disaster movies from Hollywood dominated the box office. Some of you may remember The Poseidon Adventure, where a rogue wave capsizes a luxury ship. The Towering Inferno, where a massive fire breaks out in a tall office building. Or Earthquake, where an earthquake of extreme magnitudes strikes LA. None of us, per se. These movies fed our appetites for grand spectacles, offering dazzling visual effects and thrilling narratives where heroic characters triumph over cataclysmic events. Fast forward 50 years later, and we still have disaster movies. But now, many disaster movies reflect our reality and serve as warning signs of the worldwide consequences of climate change. One impactful movie for me is a 2017 Hindi language drama called Garui Hawa, translated to Dark Wind, which is based on true stories from a drought-ridden village in the Bundelkhand region of India, where agriculture is a core aspect of society. Due to the adverse effects of climate change, Peter, the blind and elderly main character, is unable to pay back his loans to Gunu, the loan agent, and is severely in debt. As a result, many farmers in the village see Gunu as a god of death, representing their inevitable ruin. Tragically, many farmers in the village suffer from crop failures due to climate change and debts, and their only means of escape become suicide. According to the National Institute of Health, approximately 16,000 farmers commit suicide every year in India, making up about 6.7% of total suicides. These deaths are often linked to crop failures caused by climate change. A study in PNAS reveals that an increase of just 1 degree Celsius will result in nearly 70 suicides in India. The pressure to feed their families to survive becomes too much to bear. But the worst part, it's not just the farmers who suffer. The aftermath of these suicides devastate families, especially the women, particularly mothers. Many women are left with no choice but to migrate to urban areas in search of work, often in unsafe conditions, earning low wages and facing poor living conditions. The United Nations warns that migrant women, particularly those who are trafficked, are some of the most vulnerable migrants who become trapped in a process of coercion, exploitation, and the abuse of power. In India and other agricultural places around the world, it's a matter between life and death. Climate change affects women more than we often realize. Not only do they carry the emotional and financial burdens of these tragedies, but they also struggle due to gender-based disparities. I believe that the world is best able to solve climate change if women have a seat at the political and corporate table. As Hillary Clinton once said, when women participate fully in political life, we all benefit. Yet women continue to be underrepresented in political and leadership roles, which often results in policies that fail to address the unique needs of women, especially due to the climate change crisis. In the United States, women comprise of just 10.6% of Fortune 500 CEOs, with 53 women leading these companies. This gender bias extends to many fields, including business and environmental advocacy, leaving women with limited support when they may need it most, such as when they must flee from the consequences of climate change and seek shelter and opportunity elsewhere. The consequences of climate change are real and are happening as we speak, such as the devastating hurricanes Milton and Helene that hit the East Coast just last year, Californian wildfires, such as the Eaton and Palisades wildfires that we have all recently experienced, the loss of the Seren Glacier in France, the Pizol Glacier in Switzerland, and the Marshall Sur Glacier in Argentina, not to mention the degradation of cropland, such as in the Bundelkhand region of India. But just like a Hollywood movie, I've concluded that we can all be heroes who rise to the challenges of our world, whether that's combating climate change or fighting for women's rights and equalities so that they can have a seat at the table too. So now for scene 2, take 1. Lights, camera, action. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed those videos. We'll hear who the winner was towards the end of our program after lunch today. We're now going to head into some breakout rooms. And on the screen, you have the 4 choices. These choices will be repeated again after lunch. So you'll have the opportunity to meet 2 different rooms. In room 1, Lata Murthy is going to host Pivot 1 from Lens to Mirror, and she'll be doing some more work with Deepa Iyer's social action map. In room 2, pivot 2 from transactional to transformative, Sigrid Moran's will be going over part 1 of the Volunteers First program that the branch development committee created. And then in pivot 3 will be in room 3 with me, from problem to possibility. We're going to do a deep dive into AAUW's resources for equity and inclusion and see how we can create new possibilities in our branches. And in room 4, Becky Gomez is going to go through pivot 4, hustle to flow, and she'll be going over part 2 of the Volunteers First program, showing some ways to support and recognize our volunteers. We'll have 45 minutes in the breakout rooms, and there will be, they will close and they'll bring everybody back to our main room before lunch. In a few moments, you're going to have a what to expect this summer. And so without further ado, I'd like to share Dr. Mimi's video. Do we have the sound?
An average of 151 girls a week. If you add in the 150 alumni staff, we also expect to see that's over 180 girls a week. With this year's cohort, we will have successfully introduced STEM possibilities to over 16,000 alums since 1998. Our camps immerse girls in hands-on science, technology, engineering, and math activities, and they're all guided by inspiring female STEM professionals, from rocket scientists and astronauts to geneticists and entrepreneurs, along with our dedicated alumni just starting their journey in social STEMism. These experiences are about more than labs and lessons. They're about building confidence, fostering curiosity, and helping girls see themselves as future innovators and leaders. We know with great certainty that middle school is a pivotal time when many girls begin to lose interest in STEM fields, often due to a lack of representation or encouragement. And our program changes that trajectory by connecting campers with mentors who look like them and who have walked similar paths. We know show these girls that they belong in STEM and that their dreams are valid and achievable. The results speak for themselves. I just spent several weeks talking to nearly 75 staff applicants for camps, 80% of them alumni, and to a person, the ones who attended camp shared the very transformative experience as their reason for returning. Year after year, we see girls transform. They arrive hesitant, sometimes doubting their abilities, and leave with new skills, stronger self-esteem, and a sense of belonging in a community of future scientists, engineers, and creators. Many return as alumni and volunteers, eager to give back and inspire the next generation. None of this would be possible without you, our sponsors, partners, and volunteers. Tech Trek is and has been the biggest project supported by members of AAUW California for many years at over $3 billion, $750 million. Nice if it was $3 billion, and countless hours of time each year. Your generosity and time are changing lives and shaping the future of STEM. On behalf of every girl whose world has opened up because of you, thank you for believing in them and in our mission. Together, we are building a brighter, more inclusive future, one camper at a time. Thank you so much. This
Okay, well, thank you all for coming back. I'm here just to introduce the Branch Activity of the Year Award as a recognition of a signature branch activity presented during a one-year period. So let me introduce another member of the Branch Development Committee, Patricia Souza, who will tell you a little bit more about the Bay Awards. Patricia.
Hi, I'm Patricia Souza, the leader of the Branch Activity of the Year Award program this year. We call this award BAY for short. You can find out all about this program on the AAUW website. At the top of the page, click on Branch Tools and scroll down to Branch Activity of the Year. In addition to how to apply, you'll see information from past applicants. Lots of great ideas there as you plan programs for next year. So plan to submit your very best program. Deadline will be March 1 of next year, or you can volunteer to judge the applications. And now we're going to talk about this year. We had 24 applications submitted. The applications were all terrific and showed the depth and breadth of our commitment to the mission of AAUW. We had 8 judges: Doreen O'Donovan, Patricia Souza, Bee Dye, Teresa Chupp, Laura Sulkin, Patsy Knight, Ruth Dustin, and Bev Van Sitters. Our third place winner was Intergenerational Climate Change from the branch of Sunnyvale Cupertino, submitted by Emily Adorable. Our second place winner was actually 2 branches that worked together. Orinda Moraga Lafayette submitted Equal Access to Public Education for All Students, and submitted by Lorinda Ochoa. And the other project was Participation in School Board Project from Danville Alamo Walnut Creek, submitted by Denise Burian. And our first place winner was Student Immigration Rights, a fundraiser for community college dreamers from the Berkeley branch, submitted by Karen Weinstein. We're very excited to announce these winners, and we thank you for your attention. We do plan to identify your very best program between now and March of next one and submit it for this award. My contact information is on the website if you want more information. I know you'll want to hear from our winning applications, and that's coming up next.
My name is Emily Adorable, and I am the program officer for Sunnyvale Cupertino branch and have been for the past 3 years. I want to thank the state of California AAUW for choosing our program as one of the best in the state this year. I started this a couple of years ago. My idea was to do a program about climate change, but make it multi-generational. I wanted to hear from the elders and from the youth. So I came up with the idea, then I contacted the different organizations. The first organization was the Elders Climate Action, and they are very, very active in fighting climate change. I happen to be a member. So I contacted them, and they directed me to a person who would be involved with the program as a panelist. Then I also contacted the Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action, which is a group of students, mostly high school and college age, who are also fighting climate change. And we met with several Zoom meetings to decide how we would do the program. And we decided that the elders would talk about the what and why of climate change. What is climate change? Why is it happening? What effect is it having on the earth? And then the youth decided they would basically tackle solutions. What can we do as an individual to fight climate change? After gathering the group and coming up with who the panelists were going to be,
I advertised it on Eventbrite, set up a place where people could register and RSVP. And each of the organizations, Elders Climate Action and Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action, also advertised it on their social media. So we had approximately 129 people register to come that day. And we set up it in Sunnyvale. We also, before, had gone to the city councils of Sunnyvale and Cupertino, invited the mayors and the city council members to come to the organization. We did have the mayor of Sunnyvale, Larry Klein, as introduce the panel. Then each group did their presentation. First, the elders talking about all the facts about climate change and how it's affecting our world. And then the youth talking about, okay, now what are we going to be able to do? How can we fight this very, very, very important problem for our future? The youth were mostly college students. We had one of the young women was from Cal Berkeley, and the other one was from high school, and then we had another high school student. They came up with ideas of what we could do. They first talked about what, as an individual, you can do to fight climate change, and then they gave like a little multiple choice fact thing about for the audience. So they would ask a question, and then the audience would respond with their answers. And it was kind of surprising that some of us did not know a lot of these things about climate change. The next part and the last part of the program was that we gathered in groups. And so each group had to have elders and youth. And we sat in a small group of 6 to 8 people. And then we discussed. One of the questions was, how has climate changed in your life? And of course, the elders, we've had a huge change. For the youth, maybe not as much. But we talked about, are you with the youth? Are you learning about climate change? Are these things, prevalent? What do you know about climate change? And each person received a card when they entered, and on it said, I pledge to commit myself to these actions. And so there were 4 of them. You could write down as you were listening to the program, what actions can you take? Something as simple as just turning out the lights when you leave the room, to actually getting involved and letting people know. We asked each person there to communicate to at least 5 other people what they had learned that day. We also had several groups that came representing different actions about climate change. One was a group that is trying to stop artificial turf because it has a very detrimental effect on our environment. And another one was Valley Transit, who is trying to figure out green transportation. So people were able to gather a lot of information, network with others, and then hopefully walk out the door with new ideas of what they could do to fight this global problem. And as the elders, we know that we are seeing effects of climate change, but we will not see the final effect. But the youth could, in their generation, see how serious this could become for the world. So it's a very informative and action-packed program. We really think that it has an effect on the climate change.
Welcome. This is our second place award-winning branches for the Branch Activity of the Year Award for 2025. I'd like to introduce Denise Burian from the Orinda Morada Lafayette branch. She is the president, has been with AAUW for 10 years, and Lorenda Ochoa from the Danville Alamo Walnut Creek branch, and she's been with AUW 2 years and is the public policy chair. Congratulations to both of your branches. And now we'd like to hear from you about your project. Thank you.
Thank you, AUW California, on behalf of Danville, Alamo, Walnut Creek, and the Orinda, Moraga, Lafayette branches of AUW. We got involved in this project that we're calling the School Board Project because we were noticing at our local school board meetings that there were people attending the meetings who did not believe in AUW values. They want to remake education as a religious model. They want to ban books. They're anti-historic curriculum. They're anti-DEI, and they're anti-LGBTQ rights. It was very important for us to get involved, but we had to go to the meetings in order to see what was happening. And once we went to the meetings, people became inspired and wanted to speak up. Since that time, we've been speaking at all of the board meetings. How about your branch, Denise? What have you done?
Well, we discovered the same thing around the same time that you did. We had a slate of school board candidates who wanted to ban books and stop diversity in education. They lost, thank God, but we decided we needed to get involved. So around that time, AUW came out with the school board project with a webinar and a toolkit. It was perfect timing. We started looking at that, attended the webinar, and created a plan to do something. And at the time, we met you, Lorinda, because you were their representative, AAUW California, for our branch. So we started out in October of 2023 with a panel presentation, and you were there and basically training our entire branch how to get involved in the school board project.
Yeah, I remember that meeting, Denise. It was so inspiring for me. Your members were so enthusiastic, and they're so willing to become engaged. You had a school board superintendent on the panel. You had one of your members who's a retired school librarian. You had another member who's active in the community. And then I talked to you about what the school board project could be. I was so inspired by the enthusiasm of your group. It made me realize that, yes, if only we can get this information in front of all AUW branches, we could make a huge difference. What have you found by your participation in this project?
Well, we attend, as does your branch, we try to attend all the school board meetings. We monitor the agendas to see if there's something on the agenda. We have at least one person, usually more, attend almost every board meeting in our 5 districts that we cover. I believe you guys do the same thing. And then we speak at every board meeting, even if it's public comment period. About half the time there's something on the agenda, we'll speak to that agenda item. And if not, we'll speak in public comment. And what we found out is that the school board members are thanking us for being there and supporting them in their effort to retain the kind of education we have had for decades in California and in this country, and we want to continue it. We have changed the tenor of the school board meetings because they're not just hearing about the negative and what other people want different. They're hearing from us saying, we like the way our public schools are going, and we appreciate what you do, and we advocate for AUW public policy priorities at almost all school board meetings. And we're finding out that our members who are participating feel like they're doing something, and we're getting recognized. How about you, Linda?
The same thing, Denise. And another benefit that we've seen is that other community groups, other nonpartisan community groups like PTA, like the League of Women Voters, like PFLAG, like Interfaith Religious Council, they want to work with us. So we talk with them at the meetings, we interact, we invite them to our programs, our monthly programs where we're discussing school board issues. We have them as speakers. We worked with them on candidate forums, 3 different candidate forums in the last election. And just as a sidelight, people would have no way of knowing where some of these candidates stood on issues without these candidate forums with the League of Women Voters and PTA, because there is no venue for people to learn what these candidates really believe.
And we are providing that with the League of Women Voters and some of these other groups, yes.
So I think it's really important, and we're seeing such a strong benefit in our community from our being involved.
We are saying increase in membership because people are noticing and they want to be a part of us. We also see that not only do those new members volunteer for our community outreach projects, but we're getting other people who want to volunteer for our community outreach projects. So we're getting a lot of exposure, and we are very well recognized in the community and respected in the community.
Yes, we're making a difference. And I've heard from so many members that this is what they want, and especially from the new members coming in who are younger and want to be engaged.
Yeah.
Our branch has a lot of older folk, and we really welcome the infusion of new energy and new blood into our branch. So we want to invite everyone in California, all members and all branches, to get involved in this kind of project, because you too can make a difference. Join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, and congratulations to both of your branches for a job well done and for being our second place winners in the Branch Activity of the Year Award program. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Weinstein, and I'm the co-president with Sarah Miyazaki of our Berkeley branch. Thank you so much to AAUW for giving the Berkeley branch this award. And thank you to Charmin and Sigrid and Patricia for working so hard on the event. The name of the event, the project, was a fundraiser for dreamers and a panel on student immigration rights. We started organizing for this award as soon as the president was elected, and we understood that the issue of immigration was timely and important. Student immigrants were in jeopardy of being deported, and many of our colleges have undocumented students. The branch felt it was a good time to do this event. And as you can see, we actually were raising money for the Berkeley Community College Undocumented Community Resource Center, where there are a number of students who are undocumented, and they're able to get financial support, mental health support, social support in that center. We raise money so that students who are in an emergency situation because of this immigration issue will be able to help them. So that's what we did. We held this at a church, the Berkeley Church, and it is with the minister. Christy Ramage. That's it. And we really want to thank her because she invited all the members of her congregation to come, and she spoke about it, and we really appreciate that she helped us with the room and bringing people in. So thank you for that. And you get a feel for what the room was like. You can see it was crowded, but what you can't see is that there are people in the hallway waiting to come in because it was so full. And I'm not sure everybody actually got in, but they did try to. It was just a very timely event, and the people in Berkeley and AAUW Berkeley are very committed to helping immigrants. So it was a very good crowd. And here you'll see the panel of the speakers. And we really had a terrific panel. We had 4 people speaking, Honorable Liz Ortega, an assembly member, Letty Volp, who was a professor at Cal, Dr. Ingrid Roberson, who is the superintendent, California Chief Deputy Superintendent in California Department of Education. And we also had Manuel from the East Bay Sanctuary Covenant. They were terrific. Each of them spoke about something different that had to do with immigration. The professor spoke about the history of DACA and Dreamers, and each of the other speakers had something different to talk about, and they were just terrific. So we really thank them. And you could see that is Liz Ortega, Assembly Member Liz Ortega, and Professor Letty Volp, who was speaking about the history of DACA. And here you could see the invitations were super, super important. This was the Dreamer invitation, and you could see the host committee. We had so many hosts that were honorables who were helping us. There was not one honorable who rejected us when we asked if they would join us or help. Very important in terms of making this this event happen, and I think it was a very beautiful invite. The next invite, excuse me, was done by the Peralta Community College Dreamers, and as you can see, it was for the Dreamer Emergency Fund and Give a Dream, Make a Reality. And this went also to the students and the staff and the faculty at Peralta Community Colleges at Berkeley City College and the rest. And we got many, many faculty members who came in. So it was terrific. And I included this slide because really, in order to make this kind of a event happen, we reached out to all these organizations. East Bay, I'll just say a few: East Bay Sanctuary Covenant, Latino Unidos de Berkeley, La Peña, ACLU, DOJ, and you can read the rest of them. It was super important, and it was an honor to make contact with these organizations. I want to particularly thank Peralta Federation of Teachers and AFSCME 3299, 2 unions that helped us. I can only say that it was so critical that we reached out to them, and they were just super helpful for us. So this is what we're going to do for the future, is to reach out to many organizations. Not only can they help us, but we can help them, and we're going to do that. So thank you to those groups. And in the next slide, you'll see pictures of Carolina and Adriana, and I'm excluding their last names. And we're at the Berkeley Sanctuary Commission after the event, and AAUW has a representation there now. So we were able to continue having some impact, and other schools then created events that were terrific for their students and for their parents. So I would say that it was a really terrific event. Here is obviously myself and Sarah Miyazaki, the 2 presidents. But I think the most important thing that I learned from this is that AAUW Berkeley has to reach out to other organizations, and we have to help them as much as they help us. And with this issue of immigration, we have no choice but to use our voice. We have numbers, we should use our voice, and we must reach out. What is going on is not acceptable, and AAUW Berkeley is going to fight this as long as we can and work for due process. So thank you so much for these awards. I hope it was helpful for you to see how we did it and why we did it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thought someone was going to tell me it was time, but I guess not. Couple of things before I go into the state named gift honoree. I just wanted to say that when I was reading my per capita numbers, branch number 4 should have been branch number 7, but an amazing honor for all of the 10 branches that we had. But thanks to our members who have a sharper eye than I, and I know I looked at this about 1 million times. That's, you look at it enough, it just looks like it's supposed to be there. Anyway, it's my honor and privilege to announce the state named gift honoree. Every year, the AAUW California Fund Committee honors an AAUW California member who's done outstanding work in supporting the programs and goals of the AAUW Fund and or AAUW California. And these are not people that were just picked by us, branch members, friends, whatever, California AAUW members send in applications for this. And it's always a really hard choice to pick who we're going to have. So can we have the next slide? Thank you. Okay, she's a Legacy Circle member. And her mother made her join AAUW so she could attend her mother's installation as branch president just a few years ago. She raises funds for AAUW Fund by selling tickets to a gourmet dinner that she hosts at her home. She loves science fiction books, and she was AAUW California State President 2014 to 2016. Does everybody know who it is? It's Kathleen Doty from the Alhambra San Gabriel branch. Congratulations, Kathleen, for all your hard work. For those of you who don't know her well, she's done the she and her husband started the Colorful Stories. She's done fundraiser. She doesn't just work for AAUW. She's the consummate Girl Scout. There's just not enough things that you can say about her. She is an amazing human being. She volunteers at her church. And although we took it out of the whatever, she is the much put upon middle child. And so I can't say enough my congratulations to Kathleen. She's been due this honor for forever in my mind, but I'm glad that everybody agreed to vote her in. Anyway, thank you, Kathleen, for your help and your continued support of the AAUW Fund.
Hi, everyone. I am excited to introduce this year's DEI champion. So we've been calling it Equity Champion, but we are purposefully renaming it to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Champion to challenge the wider attack on gender equity via the attack on DEI. So this is an award we give annually to someone who is working hard to advance gender equity through scholarship, advocacy, policy, and mentorship. This year's equity champion is Dr. Catherine J. Perkins. Dr. Perkins is chair and associate professor of political science at California State University, Long Beach. She also serves as the chair of the LGBTQIA+ Campus Climate Committee, on the President's Commission on the Status of Women, and her scholarly research focuses on constitutional law, feminist legal theory, and LGBTQ politics. Her recent work has been published in Transgender Studies Quarterly, the Journal of Lesbian Studies, the Research Handbook in the Feminist Political Thought, and the Journal of Homosexuality. She's a co-editing and forthcoming special issue on LGBTQ politics for the journal Politics, Groups, and Identities, and was recently elected as incoming chair of the Sexuality and Politics section of the American Political Science Association. In addition to her groundbreaking scholarship on queer rights and impactful gender advocacy work on and off campus at CSULB, Dr. Perkins was a critical point person and advocate for the development, launch, and continued support of the Gender and Public Policy Internship Program. This internship program, which we are creatively working to sustain and expand, will help mentor the next generation of gender equity advocates and hopefully build a new generation of AAUW California members. So let's hear a few words from Dr. Perkins.
Hi, everyone. I am honored to be here. I wish that I could be live. Unfortunately, I had another commitment, but I just really wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation for being recognized by the American Association of University Women in California this year as a DEI champion, as an equity champion. I think that this is a really especially meaningful award. I have admired the work of this group for so many years, and really was so excited when I was able to work with Dr. Maseko and the public policy team to construct the partnership that we've been able to have this semester with our students. And so to have recognition of that work, as well as the scholarship that I've done in feminism and on public policy and public law, is really just humbling and quite an honor. And again, especially because I just think that the work that the AAUW California does is so vital and important all the time, but I think especially as we've seen an increased need for gender equity advocacy, as we've seen increasing amounts of threats and assaults to the protection of gender-based protections in the law. And so I think that the work that AAUW does, especially with respect to its public policy agenda, is just so critical and just so needed. And the opportunity to partner with AAUW California to create the Gender and Public Policy internship that we were able to launch this semester, and to have 2 students be a part of that has just been such a joy to watch and to hear about their experiences, being able to go to Sacramento. Our department is so grateful for the support of so many AAUW members to help enable that opportunity. And I know that they had such a wonderful time and were able to really learn quite a bit in a very hands-on way about the process of public policy making and about what it means to be an advocate for gender equity today. And to be able to see how the sausage gets made, to be able to understand the nuances of public policy making in Sacramento. So I'm just so thrilled to be able to have this partnership, and I'm excited about being able to do it again next spring. And to be able to continue and strengthen this relationship between our department and Cal State Long Beach and AAUW California to really help prepare another generation of leaders to be equity advocates and to be able to advance gender equity specifically in California and beyond. I know that the 2 students who did this internship this year have found it to be such a transformative and meaningful experience. And I know that the experience that they've gotten from this internship is something that will really propel them forward in their careers and set them apart and give them insight that I think will help them to be able to have access to further opportunities to be able to influence legislation and public policy and to really be equity advocates for the rest of their career. And so I think that as grateful as I am for this recognition, I am also very grateful to have been able to work with the public policy team and to construct this internship, and just want to thank AAUW, the board, and especially the public policy team for helping to construct this internship and for building this partnership, and really for all of the wonderful work and advocacy that AAUW does to advance gender equity across the state of California. So thank you so much for this recognition and for all of the wonderful work that you do. And I wish everyone a fantastic meeting and a great weekend.
Drum roll, please. The honorable mentions are Pasha Rayofi of Redlands and Shanvi Gupta from the Fremont branch. And now let's move on to the third place winner, Aditya Kumar of Poway, Pensaquitos. And let's go for our second place winner, Anika Ravi of Roseville, South Placer. And the first place winner, and she's very nice, and her name is Nisa Mitra of the California Online. Congratulations to all of you. You were splendid, and we applaud you loudly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. So we're nearing the end of our journey today, and keeping with our theme, some of you may have noticed that I didn't have a work breakout room 1 because during the middle of that, right before that, my internet went out in my whole neighborhood. So I had to grab some clothes on, get some clothes on, and run to a Starbucks, where I'm sitting now in the car outside Starbucks joining you again. But it's all about pivoting and being flexible. So here we are. And we have some opportunities for you all to get involved in our state organization. First of all, like I mentioned earlier, we're missing a CFO. We don't have a candidate for that position. So if there's anyone who would be willing to take that on, it could be shared with another person. Really, if you have QuickBooks experience, it would be helpful, but not necessary. And both the board and Kathy Ford, our current CFO, are willing to help to guide you and train you and help make that work. So I hope that we'll hear from someone. We also have a number of committees that you've heard from today. The committee application will be available on our website May 1st, and the closing date will be May 31st. So we recommend that you join us. We'd love to have you join a committee, fill out application. We will be doing a committee day on Zoom this year on August 23rd, so you can pencil that in on your calendar. It'll be mostly a whole day, and we'll have breakout rooms for each committee where you'll get to work for several hours with your committee and the chairs on planning activities for the upcoming program year. Next slide. Just some reminders, our election started today. You should have got an email around 8 o'clock this morning. Be sure to please check your spam, which is where mine actually went. I finally did find it. And search for 2025 AAUW California election ballot. It will be coming from site admin as the sender. So please look for that. It's a very important ballot. We have our public policy priorities, the dues increase, and the directors for the board. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a 4 pivots book study in the fall. We'll have 4 Zoom calls, 1 for each pivot. So watch for information for that as we get closer to August. And a meeting like this, a meeting in person, a meeting on Zoom can't happen without a lot of people in the background. So I wanted to just acknowledge our amazing communications team led by Michelle Bear and Donna Holmes. And they just have done an outstanding job, not only with this event, but also all year long with the California Connection, which is written by Don Johnson and is amazing, and the B2B, which gives information to all of our leaders to pass on to all of our members. We had an event committee, Sigrid, Lotta, and myself, and then we couldn't do anything without Office Manager Extraordinaire, Julica Barrett. We really thank you, Julica, and just everyone on the whole leadership team for helping to give input to this committee, to this event. and help us pull it off. And before we leave, I actually do want to ask all of the leadership team members to stay on at the end of the meeting so we could do a real quick debrief. But just thank you to everybody for joining us today. I want to acknowledge you as well. It takes a lot of people, but having you here to hear all of this information. I'm hoping that you're inspired. I'm inspired hearing some of the work and thinking of ways I can connect some of Deepa's work with the 4 pivots, with the Volunteers First, and how that can apply to our branches, my own branches, and to help us in the future. So I hope that you had a good day, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much, everybody.